Welcome to Cartoon Comedy Central. Today, we're diving into the very first episode of Family Guy, Death Has a Shadow. This episode begins with Stewie finishing his latest evil invention, a mind control device that will finally help him take over the world. But just as he's about to test it, Lois takes it away, saying, "No toys at the table." Naturally, Stewie is outraged. I mean, does she even realize who she's dealing with? Meanwhile, Peter is on a mission of his own, convincing Lois to let him go to a stag party. He swears he won't drink, promising to be a responsible husband and father. Of course, the second he gets there, that promise disappears faster than a donut at a police station. Peter dives into full party mode, drinking way too much and making some, let's say, questionable decisions. The next morning, he wakes up with a hangover that could take down an elephant and somehow drags himself to work at the happy-go-lucky toy factory, where he's a safety inspector. Yes, you heard that right. A hungover Peter Griffin is responsible for keeping toys safe for children. What could possibly go wrong? As expected, Peter passes out on the job, failing to notice some of the most dangerous toys ever created. We're talking butcher knives, gasoline cans, razor blades, and even a toaster with forks jammed inside. If this toy line had been released, it would have turned every kid's playroom into an episode of Final Destination. Unsurprisingly, Peter gets fired. He breaks the news to his family at dinner but conveniently forgets to mention it to Lois. Instead, he tries his hand at random jobs, like dressing up as a cereal mascot and working as a human sneeze guard at a salad bar. Spoiler alert, he's terrible at all of them. Brian, being the voice of reason, pressures Peter to tell Lois the truth. But instead of coming clean, Peter panics and calls her fat instead. Yep. A man who could have said anything else chose that. Brilliant. Now desperate for money, Peter heads to a welfare office to ask for government assistance. But due to a clerical error, he receives a weekly check for $150,000. Instead of fixing the mistake, Peter does what any logical person would do, he goes on a massive spending spree. He rents the statue of David, gives Meg plastic surgery, and even builds a moat around the house, because obviously, the biggest threat to his family is a medieval knight. Lois eventually finds the welfare check in the mail and loses her mind. She confronts Peter, furious that he lied to her and committed welfare fraud. Feeling guilty, Peter decides to return the money, but in the most dramatic way possible. He and Brian take a blimp over Super Bowl 33 and start dropping the cash onto the crowd below. Absolute chaos breaks out, and within seconds, they're shot down. Now in court, Peter faces 24 months in prison. Just as the judge is about to lock him up, the Kool-Aid man bursts through the wall with his iconic, "Oh yeah." The family responds with a collective, "Oh no," because this is literally the worst time for a product placement. Lois, despite everything, pleads with the judge, saying that Peter may be a walking disaster, but he's still her disaster. The judge actually agrees, but before he can let Peter off the hook, Stewie takes matters into his own tiny hands. He pulls out his mind control device and forces the judge to release Peter and give him his job back. In the end, Peter swears he's learned his lesson. He promises never to pull a stunt like this again, and then immediately starts thinking of new ways to scam the system. Some things never change.